Hi, thanks for listening to this read aloud today. I'm going to read a short section from my book, Miss E. This chapter comes pretty early in the book. I'll tell you a little bit about the story. Bets is the main character. She's a high school girl living in California in the late 60s during the Vietnam War. Her father's actually a soldier in the war. And leading up to what I'm going to read, we find out that one of Bets's friends has been bothered by this boy that keeps following her around at school and keeps asking her out on dates. And one of the things I really like about this section, because Miss E is written in first person, you get a lot of Bets's thoughts. You find out what she's thinking, and you kind of see her decision-making process as she's confronted by this boy. I'm not sure that she made the right choice, but I do think it's interesting and it's kind of fun to see her work through what to do and then kind of deal with the results of what happens. I don't really know why I got involved. I walked to class with Cassie whenever we were headed in the same direction, and I'd encountered Peter's persistence before. I found it annoying and awkward and felt sorry for Cassie, but I never really took it personally until that day in front of the auditorium. Maybe I was frustrated by our lack of recent progress in history. Maybe I was just irritable from the cold I was fighting, or maybe it was the gap in letters from my father. Whatever prompted it, the injustice of what Peter was doing to Cassie finally hit home and felt personal. "Hey!" I shouted. And when there was no response, I took a step forward, so there was no question about who I was talking to, and shouted again. The second time, Peter took notice and stopped pestering Cassie long enough to turn toward me. "Leave her alone. She's not interested in you and is tired of you stopping her between classes. Get away from her and stay away." There was a blank expression on Peter's face as he processed what I'd said, and he was clearly surprised at my verbal attack. Then I saw his eyes dart side to side, getting in a quick count of the bystanders who had witnessed the exchange, and I understood immediately where Peter was coming from. It wasn't just about being interested in Cassie. Tagging along after a girl for the last 2 months, Peter had put himself at risk of being labeled as the kid who got dumped before the first date, and I had just pointed a spotlight at him. But he was used to fending off Cassie's protests, so he quickly recovered and turned things his way. A smile grew across his face. "Aw, ain't that so cute, sticking up for your friend. Or maybe you're jealous? I see you a lot with her in the halls. You getting tired of me asking her out instead of you? Well, there's a movie showing this weekend if you're interested." That's as far as he got. I didn't really think about punching him. I just felt a shift from feeling sorry for Cassie and being aggravated at the delay on my way to the library to being overwhelmingly angry at the kid in front of me. Angry at how he was messing things up for Cassie, but mostly angry at how he was talking to me. Like I'd be honored to spend time with him. Of course, I thought about all this after, mostly while I was sitting in the principal's office. In that instant, what I was really thinking about was just hitting Peter's face with my fist as hard as I could. And I did. He was 100% not expecting it. From the tone of his voice, he thought he had the upper hand and was winning our little exchange. Clearly, getting punched in the face by a girl was the last thing on his mind. My fist came up from his left, hitting him on the side of his face just under his cheekbone. He actually spun around like he was in some cartoon, and when he faced me again, his expression had gone from confident smugness to a mixture of surprise and unconsciousness. Peter's mouth hung open and his eyes widened. His eyelids flickered and closed while his body slumped to the ground. What came next was a blur. I heard a girl's voice cry out, probably Cassie's. A couple boys who were standing around watching let out what could have been a cheer or a yell of surprise. People who were nearby went running to tell others, and those that were further away came running to see what had happened. There were a lot of people. Fights weren't all that common at El Molino, I guess, so any scuffle drew attention. Bonus if the fight involved a girl, especially one who just knocked a kid a foot taller than her to the pavement. Most people were just standing around trying to figure out what had happened. Some were hunched over Peter to see if he was okay. Others were comforting Cassie, probably thinking that she was upset because the boy they assumed was her boyfriend had been hurt. No one really came up to me, although most were sneaking glances in my direction. I did see a few girls hiding smiles and nodding approvingly, one bold enough to look me in the eyes and show a quick thumbs up, partially hidden against her chest. Cassie finally shook off the shock and rushed over to hug me. "Sorry," I mumbled into her hair, not because I'd hit her boyfriend like half the people gathered around thought, but because unless you're a football jock or a prom queen, no one in high school likes having the spotlight on them. And I didn't just put it on Peter. With one swing, I put it on all three of us. Cassie shrugged. "At least Peter Anderson won't be bothering me in the hallways again," she said with a half smile. "At least not while you're around." Thanks again for listening. I hope you enjoyed this read aloud.